Alpana Doshi, Chairman and CEO at Australian Consulting Services with the International Cloud Keynote. Thank you for joining us here today this morning at the International Cloud Summit 21. We are delighted to have you join us here today. Now, we're going to move the focus back home. Now, how can we use the cloud paradigm to ignite India's potential? And the truth be said, that potential is incredibly huge. We have our presenting sponsors of the India Cloud Summit 21 coming on board for this one. Please join me in welcoming Ganesh Lakshminarayanan, CEO of Enterprise Business for Airtel Business, and Prasad Rai, the Vice President for the Global Strategic Clients Group, Oracle India, to discuss how India can tap in and harness the potential of the cloud. And we'll be joining back with Rahul Neelmani, the co-founder and editor of Greyhead Media, to lead this conversation. Back to you, Rahul. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Ashwin, for your kind introduction. Welcome once again, friends, to this second edition of the Dynamic CIO India Cloud Summit. I hope it's going good so far for all of you. And here we are with a very special and trend-setting fireside chat on igniting India's digital potential, a perspective by Airtel Business and Oracle. Before I get my speakers into the conversation, I thought that let me just build up to the hype and also give some remarks on where we are in terms of a country, our digital journey. Are we really moving towards the trillion dollar dream? So India's digital story is one of the most fascinating, remarkable ones, and especially so in the recent years. It is an ICT-led revolution that is affordable, inclusive, and transformative. Whether it is about the glorious story of Aadhaar, which has provided a digital identity to almost 125 crore residents of India, or it is about the super proliferation of digital payments that now has over 130 banks offering UPI services, or the digital delivery of services, which has simplified the way in which the citizens interact with the government, or even the secured cyberspace for sustainable development. We are quite on course, rather exceed in every sphere of department. This is all part of India's trillion-dollar digital opportunity, the vision and the potential to attain USD 1 trillion of economic value from the digital economy by 2025. Now, here are some figures that will give you some context. So India is about 825 million plus internet subscribers. That is the number which came out in March 2021 this year. As of 30th September 2021, there are over 1 billion wireless subscribers, including the inactive users. Currently, we have roughly 600 million smartphone users, and we are on course to breach the 1 billion mark by 2030. As of March 2021, there were 22.8 million wired broadband connections, which is the TRAI data. India's software as a service industry could also reach 1 trillion in value and create nearly 500,000 jobs by 2030 as businesses around the world accelerate digitization and automation. If we talk about the data center market, this will witness nearly 8 billion in investments by 2026. India is one of the developing data center markets in the APAC region. The data center market includes around 23 unique third-party data center service providers operating around 80 plus facilities. Now, while all of this sounds very fascinating and indicate towards a promising growth-oriented future, however, there is something behind the scene that needs to be brought to the daylight. Now, what is that? That's the technology working behind it. Whether it is the enterprises of any size, large, mid-size, MSMEs, or the government and public sector organizations, all are quite bullish on increasing their digital transformation initiatives. The past 2 years saw a massive push towards attaining this objective. Businesses are aware that without a robust cloud infrastructure, SaaS and PaaS platforms, and a dependable connectivity, achieving a true digital transformation will still remain a distant dream. With this as a background, I have got two very distinguished gentlemen and industry stalwarts with me today to discuss this topic. let me welcome Ganesh Lakshminarayanan, who's the CEO Enterprise Business at Airtel Business, and Prasad Rai, Vice President Global Strategic Clients Group, Oracle India. Welcome Ganesh and Satya to this very exclusive fireside chat with me.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for having us.
Pleasure to be here, Rahul.
Great, thank you. So as we warm up in this conversation, I have some very generic questions, and then I will move on to the specific ones. So if we talk about the business sentiment after the ups and downs in the last almost 2 years, what would be a fair assessment of business right now, including the market sentiment, the growth outlook, etc.? If I can start with Ganesh and move on to Satya.
Yeah, no, thanks a lot. I think the last 2 years have been very different than any other year in the Indian industry, and I'm sure it's the same world across. What we are seeing in the short run is that there are certain sectors which are coming out much, much stronger in terms of Airtel's view. So if I look at from an Airtel vantage point, we see BFSI coming out much, much stronger. Not only that, they are basically coming up with all the requirements which they have not been able to fulfill in the last 2 years, cleaning up all the RFPs, refreshes. There's also a significant amount of digital transformation happening in these places, which is driving a huge demand for demand center and cloud business from BFSI. So that's definitely one trend we are seeing in the M&D, in the BFSI world. Mm-hmm. In the M&D side, which is the next big sector, which is coming back up, not as much as BFSI, but surely there is going to be a supply problem for quite some time to come. I mean, you know, whether you take an automotive industry or an electronics industry, you know, the hardware, the chip is actually going to be tight for next, at least till 2023, which is driving them to come up with newer models of supply chain integration. Really think about this supply chain in a different way. If you look at the digital transformation in India, it has always been the story of the front-end digital transformation. You can order a pizza online, you can book a cab online, but we didn't know our oxygen cylinders were when we had Corona, which means the back end of this was not digitized fully. And I think that is going to drive, and combined with this constraint which is coming up in the supply, is going to drive a huge change in the inventory, finished goods inventory, factory inventory, which is work in progress inventory, and even extending beyond to their supply chain way back in China or wherever they have to come from, to know that they have the clear status of this every day, every minute. That's going to drive a big change, and we're already seeing some of that. In the ITES space, which is again, seeing humongous profitability because their spend has come down, everybody is working from home, and I know some companies who managed to reduce their bench so much because bench doesn't mean anything anymore. It's not physically divided. People can work from anywhere. And that's truly bringing a big uplift in the cost structure of these companies, which I'm hoping that they will funnel back into hiring and being more aggressive about pricing. And we're seeing some of that already. ITES space, it's driving huge amount of connectivity and broadband business for us. And you will see us in our results that everybody is in a hybrid work mode, which means they need connectivity in home, the connectivity in office. For a CIO of an ITES company, suddenly he or she is not managing 10 offices today. They're managing about 10,000 offices. Absolutely. That brings itself own complexity on connectivity. So BFSI is leading the charge. M&D is not far behind. And ITES, we are not seeing a lot of growth yet, except connectivity, but I'm sure it's going to come.
No, excellent. I think it was very important from a CEO's perspective to bring out and highlight the areas which need immediate attention, and you did underline one of that, which is the core supply chain issue, and therefore whatever digital transformation is happening on the periphery needs to also proliferate at the back end, which requires a lot of effort from the organization side. Also, you highlighted about organizations and the industry segments which are high on adoption, and the others which need to catch up. Thank you very much. So, Satya, your opening views on the business sentiment.
Yeah. I see two fairly interesting things that have happened over the last couple of years through the pandemic. One, irrelevant of industry sector size, companies, organizations, governments have figured out how to work in a lockdown environment,
Mhm.
which is easily one of the most difficult areas to be in, right? People have been for decades or forever used to working in an environment where you could go to an office, you could meet your clients, you could meet your suppliers, you could meet your bankers. But suddenly they have been thrown into a situation where they've learned, which I think talks a lot about the resilience and the ability to continue to do business, albeit on a smaller base, even despite some of the most difficult times. That is one thing that I find very, very fascinating. And I think that will be of great relevance going forward. The second thing is the speed with which many of the bigger macro indicators are starting to turn green after the second wave, whether it is toll collections, whether it's GST collections, or for that matter, the growth rates that is being predicted for the economy, how the regulators are now coming back and saying, hey, this is how I will start addressing many of the big macro challenges that are there for particular industries. So two very interesting trends or outcomes that I see out of the pandemic. From an industry perspective, I think the recovery is strong. Agree with Ganesh, when we speak to the banking, financial, and services industries, we see them really coming back with a vengeance, looking at how they can grow their business, how they can start really automating and doing that kind of digital transformation in their infrastructure. That is super focus because they recognize that they see the benefits of digital transformation. That's one of the great things that the pandemic and the lockdown did. People really figured out that there is great benefit in adopting digital transformation, digital technologies, cloud in their organization. I also see that the ITES sector continuing to be, strong and growing and investing in digital technologies and cloud. Particular sectors like pharma, etc., are also growing. I think the manufacturing sector took a bit longer to come up the curve, but in my conversations with many of these organizations across the country, I see that they are ready to really, start ramping up many of their aspects of business as quickly as possible. Of course, they're worried about the current supply chain issues, right? That is something that they're looking at how they can work around. So, and of course, the public sector and the government, I think, continues to be leading over there, right? In terms of their outlook, their spend, and their anticipation of better business. So overall, I think many of the sectors showing strong positive intent and also looking at bigger investments in terms of technology because they recognize over the last couple of years that technology can be a fairly big, motivator in getting them in front of their customers, managing many of their back-end processes. So mostly positive that I can see.
Great. So very minute analysis done by you, Satya, starting from the macro indicators and also which reflect in the correction of the GDP projections that the various global and national agencies are rectifying and doing. Similarly, about the recovery that you are talking about, I think in certain sectors, the recovery is very visible, very strong. The other sectors may have been slightly laggards and slow because of certain extraneous factors, including the supply chain issues, including the chip issues. However, as we move, things might become a little more positive. So let's shift gears and let me move on the future of cloud, which is what the key discussion and focus area is. So how do you assess the future of business with cloud? Where is the momentum shifting and how will businesses be able to harness the true value from their cloud environments, from the time when cloud was used as an infrastructure option, technology infrastructure option, to now being used as the key enabler of business innovation. Let me begin with Ganesh once again. Ganesh, can you please unmute yourself?
If you look at my professional history, I sold hardware for a living. I used to work for Dell for 15 years. So cloud was, I have a bias against cloud, but I think it's here to stay. When we talk to CIOs, what the pandemic has taught them is that they can't continue to operate the way they have been operating. They need to figure out an off-premise way of working, because they have figured out that I'm not talking about the cloud native companies, the startups who have always been on.
Sure.
I'm just talking about traditional companies. How are they seeing the cloud? So now they are met with few options. One, they can either continue to run the same environment, but run in a rented building, basically move to a co-located data center, keep everything under their control, continue to operate the way they've been operating, but except being on-premise, they go to off-premise. Second is they keep everything which they need to keep in control. Rest they move to the cloud. So core applications which cannot be moved to cloud because of legacy reasons, the way they've been designed, they've been operating, they keep it here and they move to the cloud. Or they create a truly hybrid multi-cloud model for the future. I think people are falling into one of these three buckets. Nobody's going to run on-premise data centers the way they've been doing from the past, right? But if I fast forward a few years and knowing, the startups, some of the startup expenses on cloud, see, in cloud, you're paying for variability. The minute you start paying for variability, it's going to be expensive than the fixed model. It's just, the way it is. So to the extent that you need 0 to 100% variability, your cost is going to be very, very high. If you need only 20% variability, the cost is going to be smaller. So the challenge will be is how to bring this variability need down so that the overall cost of infrastructure comes down.
Absolutely.
Which is going to come from a combination of fixed assets, which are cloudified, so they are more efficient, and a public cloud model, to the extent that they don't have to be tied to one environment, so that they can match efficiency to efficiency. So if my Oracle applications are going to run very efficiently on a particular data center, particular cloud model, I want to go there. It's going to run on AWS. It's going to run on Azure. I want to make sure that it's running efficiently in the right application matched to the right one. And then the ability to manage this multi-cloud model. I think what we are not seeing in India today is going from on-premise to off-premise, matching the right cloud to the right application. But we are not seeing the multi-cloud model yet. People are beginning to say, look, let me just go with one hyperscaler or the other. But I think 2-3 years down the road, the whole cloud environment will get virtualized. And I think people could be able to say, look, here is my application designed to run on any cloud. It can run on Oracle, it can run on AWS, it can run on Azure. So I would be able to get the best efficiency when I do it across these three. And in all these models, they're going to need connectivity and more connectivity. So we're happy.
That's wonderful. I think your connecting it with the connectivity has a very logical reasoning, because in maximum of my discussions with the users, the bone of contention here has always been the last mile, the connectivity. Anyway, so on the future of cloud, Satya, how do you assess the future of business with cloud? I mean, Ganesh has very, very excellently presented the picture of the future.
Absolutely. Just wanted to assure Ganesh that deep inside, cloud also has a large amount of hardware. Right? And what is close to your heart is there, deep buried inside the cloud. And that's what really powers the cloud. But more importantly, right? My outlook, and I've been in the cloud industry for a while now, right? At Oracle and prior to that, other companies. And I've seen it grow over the last many years. It has matured. It has proven its validity. It's something that every one of the largest technology vendors are investing a huge percentage of their R&D. If you look at Oracle, right, we spend about $6 billion on R&D. 90% of that goes to cloud.
Yeah.
And that translates to an enormous amount of robust cloud infrastructure plus innovative services. What's the promise of the cloud? The promise of the cloud is that it helps you work in a modern environment where there is so much change and volatility, right? On the other side, it also helps companies be much more agile and focus on their business as compared to have hundreds of thousands of people manage the infrastructure. And cloud companies deliver at scale, very robust and SLA-backed, services. Oracle does that. You can use that for small organizations, or you can use that for companies like the National Stock Exchange of India. That is, where they use Oracle Cloud Infrastructure for huge number of transactions. So I think now and into the future, cloud definitely delivers great value. If you just look at IDC reports, right? In 2020, IDC said across infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service, the Indian market was about $3.6 billion. And their prediction is that between 2020 and 2025, cloud will grow at a CAGR of 21.5%. Mm-hmm. And by 2025, it will be a $9.5 billion business. That is substantial, right? And that is because whether it's the government, whether it is large enterprises that are present in India and span across the world, or smaller organizations, they are able to afford the best technology. And it's available on the turn of a tap, right? And that, therefore, the adoption levels are very, very high. So personally, I think the future for that is enormous. Also, one of the big benefits that cloud brings to our customers is faster time to value.
True.
So customers have, deployed either our SaaS solutions or Oracle Cloud Infrastructure and been able to get their business processes automated in a matter of weeks, and in some cases days. And what in the past used to be months, right? So between thought and implementation, now the cycle is much, much shorter. And that is exactly what business is demanding, because their environment with their customer and their market is also becoming very, very dynamic. So overall, what I've seen from my side over the many years in the cloud is that the growth is very rapid. The adoption is very rapid. Customers are beginning to experiment with something that they didn't do in the past because they can, because it's a service, right? They're experimenting, figuring out what's the best way to go ahead and really deploying cloud solutions, not just on the periphery, but also for many of their core applications. So I foresee a pretty strong future on that front.
So there are many other reasons why cloud, from being looked at as a very from a lens of skepticism to a lens of optimism, because a lot of things have happened in these past few years, or maybe past one decade. A lot of standardizations has happened. A lot of applications have migrated. People have seen success. People have seen the benefits of flexibility and agility. In the past 2 years, the maximum lessons that the enterprises, both on the government and the private side, have learned is, why do they need this kind of flexibility and agility to address the issues of disruption and resiliency. So overall, it's a very convincing dialogue that is happening. In the interest of time, I'll have to rush a little bit. However, a question which is very specific to you, Ganesh sir, is that migrating and managing critical workloads in the cloud could be a very daunting challenge. From both the process point of view and the manageability point of view. How does Airtel Business assure delivering enterprise-ready services to meet businesses' mission critical application requirements? I mean, what are the benefits of putting mission critical applications in the cloud?
Yeah. So there are two parts to this cloud migration. The one part, as you rightly said, is getting the application ready for migrating to cloud. Today, a lot of legacy applications are not written to be either cloud or to be cloud agnostic. They can run on one cloud, but the minute you talk about putting it on the second cloud or sharing some other workload, they're not ready. And if you look any CTO, they'll say that's their first challenge.
True.
The second challenge is once they go to the cloud, how do they make sure that the latency of those applications, availability of those applications distributed across the country is maintained? Because there's one thing when everybody is sitting in an office, connected on a WAN, sitting next to the data center, those applications are running the data center. They behave very differently than to somebody sitting on home, accessing those applications, and they are sitting on a cloud somewhere in Delhi or Mumbai. These are very, very different environments. And as soon as you get into latency sensitive applications, this becomes a problem. And the third element is once they move to the cloud, how does the cost function? Because variability means it's like, the credit card I give to my daughter. She can just keep billing it. And after a year, we will know that she spent a lot of money, which she was not supposed to do. And that's very easy to consume also. The same advantage you get from a cloud, you need to be very careful that you're managing the cost. So these are the three big challenges. I think on the first challenge, there are enough players in the market. It leads into application modernization kind of consulting. We are going to bring the best of the partners for solving that problem. The second area is where we can add significant value. In fact, if we are launching Oracle Connect, we are bundling the first year of Fast Connect with our cloud offering for Oracle. That is the kind of thing we are going to do because it will make easier for a CIO to move to cloud without worrying about what is going to cost for their network. And over the time, they can figure out. We're also figuring out what is the latency you're going to need so that we can connect your data center to the closest cloud region. And it so happens that a lot of these hyperscalers, they run on Airtel data center. I can't reveal who is who, but I can definitely say Oracle is one of them because it's public knowledge. So it also helps us to make sure that we can help our customers to get to the hyperscaler environment much more efficiently. That's a second bucket. Third bucket is near and dear to my heart because I have seen it in the startup world where people start being cloud native, they start increasing cloud consumption, and immediately 12-13% of their revenue is spent on cloud. It is very common to see double-digit spend on infrastructure in these startups because their transactions are increasing and their businesses have not been optimized for this kind of infrastructure spend. So there's a lot of startups in this space who are beginning to optimize cloud cost, not only from a DevOps environment, how to redefine it, but also to use multi-cloud architecture. So we are creating a platform for these startups to come and work with Airtel so that not only the network, even the computing cost can be optimized. So we will partner for the one. We will definitely bring it ourselves for the number two, which is network optimization. And in terms of cost optimization, we're going to build an ecosystem of startups.
Well, excellent. I think our viewers and listeners are taking note of this and how this whole ecosystem will help them in adoption of cloud. Satya, very specific question to you, and be a little precise in your answer because I'm going to run short on time very soon. So Oracle in the past 3-4 years has very aggressively positioned itself as a robust and well-rounded cloud player with both its Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, OCI, specialized SaaS offerings, and also the availability zones in India. How does all this help enterprises in achieving the big dream of digital transformation?
Absolutely. Very relevant question, Rahul. And I'll just give you a very precise and brief answer. One, Oracle has been in India since the early 1990s. And we have over 38,000 employees here in India working for Oracle Corporation on the whole. And, we've invested in the cloud. And we've invested in building 2 regions, data center regions in India, one in Mumbai and the other in an entirely different seismic zone in Hyderabad.
Yep.
And one of the big things that we're doing is really working with our partners. What Ganesh talked about, right? Bundling Fast Connect for 1 year along with the cloud services to our customer, right? It makes it commercially more attractive. It also makes it so much more easier for the customer to go and roll out the cloud technology. The biggest thing about the cloud is that it's moved from booking to consumption.
Yep.
Therefore, every hyperscaler, definitely Oracle, right, looks at success as how the customer consumes the product or the service, and what is the benefit it delivers to our customer. And because of the fact that we have the data centers, the resources, including our development resources in country, we are able to work closely with our customers, not just in being able to offer them the services, but also in terms of planning, architecting, prototyping, and working with our partners to be able to deliver the services in a way that the customer is able to make that leap in the digital transformation journey. So that's really how we're really bringing to bear the power of Oracle and our partnerships with companies like Airtel to really bring value to our customers.
Great. So this comes, this brings me to one last common question to both of you. And, you both alluded about the fact and the large announcement of the Oracle and Airtel partnership, which was recently done. It's a very ambitious and mega partnership in which Airtel Business will offer OCI to its million plus enterprise customers. Oracle will leverage the Nxtra infrastructure to expand its cloud presence in India, and both organizations will set up a joint cloud center of excellence for emerging cloud technologies and IP development. So, starting with you, Ganesh, and moving on to you, Satya, both of you take a couple of minutes on explaining what does this mean to the existing and prospective customers, and how will this help the users in delivering a superior experience to their customers.
This is a conversation we have been having every week now between the Oracle team and us. We have a weekly call to make sure that we are staying true to these promises. I am for sure super excited about this Oracle partnership. We have always been a big customer of Oracle solutions. To have them as a partner now as a customer of our data center solution has been very exciting. What we are trying to see is how do we build these strengths together to create solutions for the digital enterprises in India. So what is our strength here? Our strength is all the data centers we have built. We have got about 120 odd edge data centers across the country. Each one of them have been fitted with 400 gig of connectivity. We are building big data centers in Mumbai. The Chennai data center is already up and running. So we have about 5,000 crores being invested in building mega data centers for the digital expansion of India. So connectivity and data center is our strength. And what Oracle brings is an amazing software industry experience, understanding of the India market. They've been here for quite some time across all verticals, not just BFSI. Oracle's exposure in the government vertical, other verticals has been extremely helpful for us as well. And we have common customers. We serve pretty much every enterprise customer in India is an Airtel customer. We have about 2.5 lakhs SMB customer on our roles. We have a direct engagement with all of them. Everybody's going to need a laptop. Everybody's going to need a desktop. Everybody's going to need connectivity. So which means all of them are our customers. So GTM is another common strength we are leveraging. So what are we bringing to market? One, on the Oracle side, on the OCI side, as people think about migrating their on-premise data centers, Oracle databases, applications, and Airtel is an example of ourselves, and we are thinking about moving our applications to cloud. I think the combined expertise of Oracle and our ability to design a proper network to move them to a cloud will be very valuable. We are focusing on the M&D sector to begin with. We've actually started identifying common set of accounts we are going with together. I can say that we already have big partnerships, big RFPs we are chasing together in the public sector side, given our strength in public sector side. So this is actually a pretty exciting journey on the public cloud side. But what is more exciting for us is to truly build a sovereign cloud for India.
Okay.
I think there is going to be a set of customers who cannot move to public cloud for various different reasons. They would want to manage an environment within their own control, whether you call it private cloud, you call it whichever name, it will be nothing, it will be just not public cloud. And that is going to be fully audited. There are some RBI guidelines when it comes to BFSI customers not be able to move to cloud. So an Indian brand like Airtel, backed by all the auditability of TROI and the controls we have always maintained throughout the last so many years of our existence, along with Oracle's strong product called DRCC, which is dedicated region and customer location, we are hoping to build a solid sovereign cloud model, which will not only take care of the public cloud requirements for some set of customers, for a smaller set of customers who can't move to public cloud, we want to offer this as a combination of our data center, our connectivity, and Oracle's infrastructure. We are working on it. Let's see how it comes out. But that's the two sets of actions we have taken on the Oracle side.
No, wonderful. I think that was the crux that I wanted from you. Satya, your last words, please.
Sure, thank you. Very good to hear from Ganesh about how they're thinking about this partnership with Oracle. Airtel and Oracle, we've been dealing with each other for 25 years now. Airtel's deployed many of our software and technologies over there. And it's a natural progression as two organizations that know and work very well together, natural progression to this GTM. So, Ganesh talked about DRCC, Dedicated Region Clouded Customer, a great offering that together with Airtel, I think will really make a very differentiated service cloud offering to the Indian market, particularly for regulated industries, for customers with extreme expectations from cloud. And I think it'll make a lot of difference. There are a couple of other things I thought I would to supplement what Ganesh talked about. Jointly, we have a cloud center of excellence.
Yeah.
It's an area where both the organizations are investing to help create unique IP. Airtel creating unique IP for the Indian markets, right? How do we look at moving workloads currently that are on-premise that are very critical to either Airtel or our customer organizations? How do we work to move that to the cloud so that our customers are able to get the benefits of that? How do we look at getting our joint customers to come and experiment, look at the various capabilities that cloud has? These are some of the things that we really want to do, work with Airtel in this cloud center of excellence that we have deployed with. Second, I think the opportunity is very, very large. And together, Airtel and Oracle, with our strengths and our joint offerings, can really help address the needs and the requirements of the small, medium, and the large enterprises, along with the public sector and the government in India. I think it's a great match together, and I think it's just up to us to really make it a huge success and take cloud services, whether it's Oracle Cloud Infrastructure or our SaaS offerings, to the market at a larger scale.
Excellent. Thank you so much to both you and Ganesh for this very refreshing conversation, very flawless, very informative. And I hope the listeners and the enterprise customers who are now watching us will take a lot of leads from this and will engage with both the organizations. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rahul. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Goodbye.